All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So apparently there was no joint practice today between the Panthers and the Jets, which was originally scheduled. Supposedly there was some weather conditions, so the Panthers canceled it from their ends for safety reasons. But the Jets went out there anyway and practiced by themselves. So no Carolina, just the Jets. And overall, it was a pretty light day. Obviously, the game is on Saturday, but it was reported that it wasn't as in-depth as a normal practice, just a few 7-on-7s and 11-on-11, stuff like that. So before I dive into it, I definitely wanted to talk about some of Robert Saleh's comments before the practice kicked off regarding the offensive line. Okay, we all know the offensive line, really the tackle position, has been a big talking point over the last few weeks. Specifically this week, it's ramping up. Supposedly Carolina looked great against the Jets offensive line yesterday in joint practices. Aaron Rodgers voices frustration. Talked a little bit about it yesterday after the practice. Connor McGovern was also frustrated. Supposedly the Jets defensive line has been just ripping through the Jets O-line throughout the course of training camp so far. And of course, we do have to credit the Jets D-line. They are absolutely stacked. Tons of talent, tons of depth. I feel great about the D-line. But we know, just as Jets fans here, the struggles that the Jets have had with finding permanent offensive linemen. We can go back to the Todd Bowles era. We can talk about the Adam Gase era. We can talk about, even Sam Darnold running around for his life. Zach Wilson his first season. The last place I want to be is having Rodgers running for his life, getting obliterated off his blind side. I mean, we're thinking about going on a deep playoff run. We cannot have, problems on the O-line. So anyway, Robert Saleh said that there's a chance that AVT could line up at tackle because he wants to get the best starting five out on the offensive line. Now, on one hand, I agree with that principle. I agree with that theory. Yeah, of course, we want to get the best 5 offensive linemen out on the field. And because Alijah Vera-Tucker is so good, right, it's a credit to him. He can pretty much line up wherever. Hey, right tackle, right guard, left tackle, left guard. Like, AVT is the man. Like, he's my favorite player on the offensive side of the football. I love him. He's versatile. He has a high floor. He has a high ceiling. Just a hard worker. Never complains. Never an issue. Just a beast, man. I love Vera-Tucker. But here's the deal. Here's why I'm a little bit frustrated. Because I feel, look, it's August. It's August 10th. There's still so much time before the start of the regular season, but I really, really, really feel like the Jets should not be in this position, right? And of course, Saleh did say that the goal is to play Vera-Tucker at right guard. That's where they feel like they can get the most out of him, which is great. But if need be, and he has to line up at left tackle because the struggles continue, then they'll go ahead and proceed with that. I don't feel like the Jets should be in this position. Nothing against AVT. If he ends up being the team's starting left tackle, great. I would love that for him. But to me, we've just had so much time. We have had so much time since the end of the season. All of these different free agents, there were a ton of free agents that the Jets could make that they could have brought in, right? Because let's be honest, we did have money to spend, and admittedly, there was a major focus on acquiring Rodgers in the first place. Totally understandable. But it's like, all right, the offensive line. So there were top-end free agents. There were middle-tier free agents. We're going to get into specific names and specific contract sizes in just a second. But then there was the draft. And then after the draft, there was a portion of time where there was still unsigned guys that the Jets could have maybe even brought in. And they just didn't do so. So we're sitting here right now about to play technically the first the second game of the Jets preseason, but preseason week 1. And we're still making swaps on the O-line. In fact, Billy Turner was the starting left tackle today, and Max Mitchell kicked back over to the right tackle spot. Becton participated in team drills, and of course, Dwayne Brown is still not practicing and doesn't look to be back for at least now, I want to say a week and a half. Originally reported by Rich Cimini, it was 2 weeks, but that was like a half week ago. So to quickly go over some of these names, I mean, we can throw out the top guys, right? Let's just put those guys aside for a second because I didn't know how realistic it was that the Jets were going to be. Actually, On second thought, there was that report that was flying around saying that the Jets had heavy interest in Orlando Brown Jr. So let's just quickly go through the names here. Orlando Brown, obviously coming over from the Chiefs, signs a multi-year big money deal with the Cincinnati Bengals to take over as their starting left tackle. You had Jawan Taylor go from Jacksonville, signing a big money deal to Kansas City. We had Mike McGlinchey going from San Francisco over to Denver. And then Caleb McGarry re-signed on a multi-year deal with the Atlanta Falcons. Those, to me, were, the top tackles on the market. So, from the Jets side, it's like, okay, we're trying to get Aaron Rodgers. We're trying to build up the team. We're signing Allen Lazard. We're trying to bring in Randall Cobb and figure out specific positions, interior defensive line depth, Al Woods, Quentin Jefferson, all understandable, right? There's only so much that you can do. And ultimately, whether you win the Super Bowl or not, there's really no perfect team in the NFL. I don't care if you're the Eagles. I don't care if you're the Bills, the Bengals. There's always going to 49ers. There's always going to be a question mark or two, even on the best of teams. So going back to the Jets here, if they wanted to pivot and say, you know what, we can't afford one of these top end tackles, we want to delegate the money elsewhere, we don't really know what the Rodgers contract is going to be, totally fine, totally understandable. But let's focus on the mid tier. Right? Another group of guys that signed for relatively cheap contracts. We're talking under $10 million a season. We can look at Andrew Wiley going from Kansas City to Washington, 3-year contract worth, I believe, $24 million. We can look at Andre Dillard going from Philly to Tennessee, 3 years, $29 million. I felt like Calvin Anderson going from Denver to New England on a really cheap contract, 2 years, $7 million, as kind of that depth option was not bad. Let's throw George Fant in there, 1 year, $3 million. Not saying that he would have been like the answer to all the Jets' problems on the O-line, but it's just another option there. But here's the player that I felt like the Jets were definitely going to be in on, like 100%, but nothing ever materialized. And this is a player who sat on the open market for, a while. He ends up signing a super, super cheap deal with the Chiefs. It's Donovan Smith, 1 year, $3 million. 1 year, $3 million. Now, I get it. Look, if Donovan Smith is looking at Kansas City, hey, they just won the Super Bowl. I can go over and be the team's starting left tackle. They can move Jawan Taylor over to right tackle. Maybe the Chiefs give me a better chance to win than the Jets. Maybe the Jets had no interest whatsoever. But I felt like Donovan Smith, a veteran tackle who was a part of not only Tampa Bay for a long time, but was a part of that Super Bowl winning team with Tom Brady. I mean, I felt like that would have been awesome. And I wouldn't have even mind if the Jets gave him more. They could have doubled it. 1 year, $6 million, 1 year, $7 million. I would have said, oh, okay, cool. It's a good move. I would have totally been happy with that. But he signs a 1 year, $3 million deal with the Chiefs. And again, so overall, we're looking at, a bunch of different guys here that could have been fits, that could have worked out, but nothing ever materialized. So, as much as I love AVT, and if he is the team's starting left tackle this season, fantastic. I think he's going to go out there and do his thing and look productive. But two questions arise. Number one, in the short term, who's going to be taking over at right guard? Okay, obviously AVT's a starter here, whether he's playing left tackle or not. If he's swapping over to left tackle, what's going on at right guard? If we think back to last season, one of the reasons why that move was so seamless is because we had Nate Herbig as that backup depth option. Somebody who I really, really liked. I thought, I literally thought in my head that he was 100% going to be back with the Jets, given how he looked for the team last year in backup duty, right? Just bringing him in as a depth option. Oh, he needs to play. He stepped up. He looked really good. He signed with a 2-year deal with the Steelers, I believe, 2 years, $7 million. So he's now off the board. And if we also rewind to like the end of the Todd Bowles era, the Adam Gase era, it's funny because like it's flipped now. Like the Jets always had problems on the inside, like Spencer Long at center, Brian Winters at guard, GVR, even like that first season with Robert Saleh. Like there were Connor McGovern's first year with the team was not so spectacular, right? So there were always problems on the inside. I always felt like, every offseason I was making like videos and talking to my buddies like, we got to get the guard. We have to go get the big money guard, the Joe Toonies of the world, players like that. And ultimately they drafted AVT, they signed Lakin last year, and Connor McGovern actually he got a lot better, right, going into the second year with Mike LaFleur in the Saleh scheme. So inside we're okay. But now it's flipped. Now it's like the tackles are the weak spot. So I like Max Mitchell. I like Billy Turner, but not as like the go-to starting left tackle. I like Billy Turner as somebody who you can keep on the roster behind the starting lineup, where it's like, okay, the starting right tackle goes down, Billy Turner can step right up. Oh, the starting right guard goes down, Billy Turner can step right up. Starting left tackle, he can step right in. If you need him to play for 2 games, it's not the end of the world. But for him to be like the go-to guy, I just feel like in an offseason where the Jets went out and acquired Aaron Rodgers, made all these different moves, spent a lot of money here, and especially given Aaron Rodgers' $35 million pay cut, I don't want to have tackle issues. I don't want to have tackle question marks going into the Bills game. Look, if Dwayne Brown comes back healthy, awesome, and he looks good, he looks solidified, great. But I don't want to just be walking on eggshells every single week. Every time Rodgers drops back, I'm like holding my breath, like please get rid of the football because there's going to be pressure there, whether whether the defense is blitzing or not. They're just winning their one-on-ones. So maybe we could see a situation where AVT bounces over to left tackle. Max Mitchell's the starting right tackle, Lakin at left guard, of course, McGovern at starting center, and then Billy Turner slides into right guard because he does have that experience before. Maybe. Or maybe they go out and they make a move for like a Dalton Reisner or somebody like that. So I don't know. The whole offensive line thing is, and by the way, I don't mean to be going on and on and on about it. It's just my biggest concern at this point in time. But again, today was a pretty light practice. Aaron Rodgers looked really good, completing a bunch of passes. It didn't seem, according to reports, that there was like a major emphasis. Like they were really working the guys out there. It was, I don't want to say, call it a walkthrough or anything like that. But compared to yesterday, compared to previous practices with the Jets, it seemed like today was definitely lighter. Also, Garrett Wilson was limited in practice today, which is a good sign, right? He's out there moving around. It's not like he's, on crutches or anything crazy like that. So everything with Wilson should be good to go. Personally, I'm not playing him in the Panther game. Wait till he's 100% full go in practice, and then we can start like talking about it. That's just my opinion though. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, go Jets.